Good morning and welcome. Day 3 with the new camera, and you can tell that, I look like lopsided. Unfortunately, the new camera doesn't fit on the computer because laptops suck. I'm sorry, they do. I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the OGGM, and it is 25th day of March 2021. It is 9 o'clock in the morning. It is a cold day for some reason, even though it's spring. And it is Mega Power March. What is the end of Mega Power March? And of course, we cannot discuss Mega Power March without discussing superhero role-playing games. And we can't not discuss superhero role-playing games without discussing my guilty pleasure best superhero role-playing game, in my humble opinion. Probably a lot of people don't agree with me, but there's a lot of people that do. And the reasons why I think it's the best might be different than other people's reasons. And I've talked about this game time and time again, usually twice a year. And of course, I am talking about Faserip Marvel, the superhero role-playing game. Not any other versions of it, but the original Faserip Marvel superhero role-playing game, which is a random system. He only uses 2 dice per centile. And yes, because everything is random, you can have a power that rates at feeble, which is, or class 0, which is, the worst. So, and you're like, well, what's the point of having a superpower if it's feeble? I mean, trust me, I don't really understand why the choices they made, to give you a power, and you could roll randomly how powerful the power is, and you could end up with a really sucky power, except of course there are individuals in the Marvel and the DCU who do have sucky powers and are still, running around. I mean, Condiment Man in the DC, Paste Pot Pete, Frogman, Bartok the Leaper, Polka Dot Man. I mean, there's plenty of characters who powers rate really, really low, but they still manage to show up. And I mean, Kite Man. And yet, look how popular Kite Man became after the Harley Quinn TV show. I mean, now everybody's like, I love Kite Man. How could you do my boy Kite Man wrong, Harley and Ivy? So, there we go. So why do I love the Marvel superhero role-playing game? It has a great random power system, and it has some powers that at the time other superhero games, and still to this day, has powers in it that the other superhero games never really touched on. And a lot of the powers are redundant and repetitive. There's a lot of variations of the exact same thing because they were trying to capture the feel of the Marvel, and especially the Xmen and some of the weirder characters that were running around Marvel at the time. But there are 2 reasons, which I've gone over and over again, why I love this system. And as far as I know, no other system has done this. If it has, please somebody let me know. But as far as I know, I have yet to see another system that has done what Marvel did. And what Marvel did and why it is so great, especially for kids, especially for people with learning disabilities, especially for people who maybe see things differently, where every other game is based upon numericals. Higher the better, lower the better, whatever. An 18 is better than a 17. A 25 is better than a 24. Marvel used words to describe things. So you didn't have a 18. You had a remarkable. You had an excellent. You had an unearthly. You had a Hulk-like. You had an amazing. And what sounds better? The 18 strength Spider-Man or the amazing Spider-Man? What sounds more cinematic, more comic booky, more superhero? I blast him and my energy blast does 25 points of damage, but he can roll for a save to take half if he, Or the same sentence, I blast him with my amazing energy blast and he takes remarkable damage. Words make so much different. It makes it so much cinematic. It makes it so much closer to a comic book. You lift the car with your unearthly strength, straining, but still because your strength is unearthly and as the ground cracks beneath the weight, You show them why you are the amazing peanut butter and jelly man with your unearthly, remarkable, and even, feeble sounds just much more, cinematic and than 8. Well, my energy blast is only feeble, but still, yeah. So just the fact that they chose words, the words make everything so much more meaningful, because words are images and numbers are numbers, and amazing gives so much more imagery in your brain than just 15. 15. 15. It's 15. Unearthly. Yeah, that just sounds good. So that is the first reason why I love Marvel Faserip so much. And of course, the second reason is on the combat chart, instead of, again, using numbers, it used colors. Green feet, yellow feet, red feet, unearthly feet, white feet. Still, sure, the numbers were there because you still had to roll percentile to consult and cross, your number versus their number, but still, you need a green feet to resist my unearthly energy blast. If you're somebody who has trouble with numbers, or maybe you're a kid and don't really understand 35 and you're 6-year-old, you're 8-year-old, but you're a fan of comic books and you want to play out the adventures you saw in your comic book / Avengers cartoon, and you're like, you need to roll a green feat. I hit him with a red feat, a remarkable energy blast. The colors, again, evoke different things than just simply numbers. Numbers, as much as we love them and as much as they are important to the running of the very basic mechanics of the universe, 65, 87, 2074, yeah, they sound exciting if it's money, but on their own, 17, not that exciting. It's not, just not, I love you numbers, but you're not that exciting. On the other hand, a green feet energy blast, he has to resist my green feet energy blast or take remarkable damage. And then, he rolled a red feet, he evaded. And now he blasts you back with an unearthly, shocking earthquake blast. You have to make a red feat or you take the damage. That just sounds so much more cinematic, so much more comic booky, so much more awesome, and so much more visual. You're just imagining this in your brain instead of worrying about numbers. The numbers, sure, they're happening in the background, but nobody really cares because it's saying, unearthly energy blast, make a green feat. That just sounds more superhero, more comic book. And yeah, random powers, you can end up with really great combinations, or you can end up with really ridiculous combinations. Perfect example is when the first time we played Marvel, way back in the old days when dinosaurs still walked the earth, and I was living in LA, I made a character, and the very first character I made was a robot, because you could also roll random race, and I rolled robot. Now the robot had a couple powers. Its main power, though, was blending, and it had blending at the highest I could get for a starting character, remarkable. So that's, pretty much if I'm standing still, you can't see this robot. He's just unless you make a remarkable or a better to spot him. He also had the lowest possible psyche you could have, which means basically he was a robot. You had to tell him what to do. Robot, get up. Robot, go fight. Robot, answer the phone. He had no free will. You had to tell. He was an old-fashioned 1950s robot. You had to tell him what to do. So here's this robot with remarkable blending, standing in the corner, waiting for somebody to tell him what to do. But because he's blending, nobody ever saw him. So they would everybody in the group would continually forget that I was there, because I was like, well, I can't say anything. I've got this basically no free will. I'm a robot. You have to tell me what to do. And then they'd go off and do things, and then somebody would remember, and they'd be like, oh, where's the robot? And I'm still standing in the corner because you never told me to move. Well, we didn't see you. Of course you didn't see me. I was blending in the corner. It was a great character. Now, obviously, after like two games, we were like, yeah, we all love this character, but yeah, you kind of need to make a new one. And the second character I made was called the Rabbit Wombat. and he had hyper digging and berserk. So it's sort of like a tunneling version of Wolverine. Hyper digging, I could dig through pretty much anything. And when I went berserk, I sort of became this crazy like Wolverine, but without the claws, just, blah, 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 blah. But all the times I wanted my berserk to go off, it never would. And then all the times it shouldn't have gone off is when it did. Like, it would go off in the most ridiculous times because we had to roll to see if the berserk activated whenever I was like frustrated. And so like one time we're in the hospital and we're waiting for somebody to come to so we can question him. And I go over to the vending machine to get some water or whatever. And the vending machine, of course, doesn't work. And and I'm like, oh man, I'm frustrated. And I really wanted that soda. And the DM's like, roll your berserk. And of course, that's when my berserk goes off. So suddenly I'm berserking, I'm hyper digging, and I'm tunneling, just digging. When he gets angry and goes berserk, he digs like nobody else because he is the rabbit wombat. Sure, it sounded silly. There were some serious characters too, but just the randomness does tend to make for some silly characters, unfortunately. But the Marvel Universe, for every awesome character like Spider-Man and the Hulk, is filled with tons of silly characters. And that's sort of the magic of the Marvel Universe. And that magic is emphasized by the randomness of the Marvel superhero role-playing game. Of course, there were some improvements in later editions for the randomness. But again, the words and the colors. The words and the colors is what made it so magical. Especially for me, because, I am special needs. I do have a learning disability. Numbers are hard for me. It's probably why I love and hate them so much, because I've had to fight so hard to understand them. So, 35 plus 27, that's, that was always something that but unearthly, amazing, superpowered, those are just superpowered words that went with a superpowered system. And green feet, red feet, yellow feet, white feet. I could understand that. I can find that, red was better than green, yellow. Yeah, so this is my love letter to Marvel superhero role-playing game Faserip, the original, none of the other future versions, but the original. OGGM, what does Faserip stand for? Okay, it's fighting, agility, strength, FASR, reflex, intuition, and P, psyche. So psyche was the one where you basically your free will, your sense of self. So of course, a robot with a feeble psyche was a robot. You had to tell it what to do. It had no free will, which is why the character was so fun. And it's just so, again, I can't say this enough. There's just something so exciting about saying, I lift it with my unearthly strength, as opposed to I lift it with my 20 strength. And I'm wrong. And again, if there's other systems that have used that besides Marvel, I'm not aware of it, but maybe it is. Let me know. Comment down below. If you appreciate this content, comment down below. Otherwise, if you don't appreciate this content and you're planning on unsubscribing, let me know, because I can't fix it if you don't tell me what's broken. And speaking of subscribing, please subscribe. Help me hit 500 subs by August 4th. And remember, there's a secret contest going for the 400th subscriber. Just tossing that out there. So until next time, I am your grumpy guide for all things gaming. Get off my lawn. Get off my remarkable lawn.